guys ready? You should be asking us if we're ready after that. I wanted to thank everybody for coming here today. Welcome to Mr. Din in his district. We have heard over the past several months now since President Trump initially put out his tweet, the voices of industry, the voices of community, the voices of small business and labor leaders alike at a round table that the Deputy Premier and I have assembled to seek input and advice about how we should be responsive and responsible in the face of an attack, an economic attack from the President of the United States. And one of the things we heard loud and clear was now is the right time to be purely focused on buying Canadian and buying Newfoundland and Labrador products. So working with people like the St. John's Board of Trade and others who are on that round table, that tariff round table that we've assembled, we've come together with a marketing strategy that can be used throughout grocery stores like this, throughout community stores in our province, so that when you as a consumer go to pick up a product, you have a moment to pause and reflect on where the product was made, where it came from, and the values perhaps that it represents. So with that, we want to encourage people to buy from Canada, buy from Newfoundland and Labrador. And this marketing campaign will go live today. We'll have a live website, if it's not live already, within minutes, where people can go to see what we're offering businesses across the province. We'll have digital assets, a marketing strategy that will be on TV and on radio and on websites within days to weeks. But also we'll have hard assets available for a standardized package for places like this to set up in their stores. So as you walk in to buy, as you walk in to purchase, as you walk in to exercise what economic authority you have as a consumer, you can give some pause for thought. So before we unveil the logo, I'd like to pass it over to the Deputy Premier and the Minister of Finance for a few words, and of course thanks to Isabelle Quinlan for hosting us here today. Obviously I believe there's over 300 buy local brands, provincial brands here. I see Kitty Vitty in the background. See this? For anyone, I'm not going to give this to the Minister of Finance, but kiss me, la. You can buy a few of those. It'll support local chocolate. It'll support the entire supply chain for people from Newfoundland and Labrador. So, Minister.
Thank you very much, Premier. And look, it's an incredibly important day to really focus on our local producers, our local businesses, our Canadian producers, our Canadian business. This is an opportunity for all of us to reflect in our buying decisions. And I think it's, we put out now, we're going to have an unveil of a logo, we're going to have a new website that'll be focused on this, where those that wish to have information, those that wish to have access to these digital assets that the Premier's talked about, they can go to their website. I know the St. John's Board of Trade will be distributing it widely, we'll be distributing it around the province as well, and there will be follow-up television and radio campaigns around this. So what we're asking the people in Newfoundland and Labrador today is to focus on supporting local business, supporting Canadian business. And this is a great place. Urban Market is a great place to be focused, because this is where I know I've come to shop. I was here with Isabelle on Saturday, but I come to shop. There's over 300 local products, and very focused on, you know, some of the incredible products. The Premier just held one up, incredible products that Newfoundland and Labrador produces. So I'm going to encourage the business community, I'm going to encourage consumers to go to the website. You can download from the website the new logo, the digital assets. You can ask and request if you need specific materials. You know, we'll have standard materials available on that website, so you can make any inquiries that you want on that website as well. But again, today is about really reflecting on all the great products in Newfoundland and Labrador, all the great products available to us in Canada, and this is an opportunity to really put shining that spotlight on it. I'm going to turn it over to Isabelle Quinlan, of course, from Urban Market, who does an incredible job here, and thank her for having us here today.
Thank you. All right, unlike our Premier and Minister Coady. I can't speak without this, so bear with me. Thank you so much for all of you for being here today, and good morning. Urban Market is thrilled to be the location for today's important announcement alongside our Premier. Urban Market is more than just a family-run convenience store. It's a thriving hub of community growth in the West End of St. John's. With a mission to redefine convenience through local connections, the market has become a cornerstone of the Brookfield District, bringing together local businesses, artisans, farmers, and producers under one roof 7 days a week. Now in its 5th year, Urban Market has played a key role in the evolution of the West End, creating a neighbourhood that supports living, working, and playing in one place. The market has empowered countless local businesses to grow while fostering a stronger sense of community amongst its residents. Urban Market isn't just, at Urban Market, the call isn't just to buy local, it's to support local. Whether through social media engagement or simply choosing locally sourced potatoes for dinner, every small action contributes to a larger movement in supporting and contributing to our own local economy. Urban Market is proud to be the city's go-to hub for local convenience, but its work is far from over. The team is committed to researching all mainland goods to ensure they meet Canadian standards while continuing to prioritize local first. This market is proof that meaningful community growth starts in our own backyards. The team at Urban Market, alongside its dedicated vendors, encourages everyone to make space for community. Together, we can build something very special. Urban Market's values are based on community over competition and believes that we are all in this together. I'll now turn it over to our Premier.
Thank you, Isabelle. Now, Jerry, we're going to do this with our hands and not our feet. So,
Well, you never know. It's only early yet.
So 1, 2, 3.
Good.
So before we take questions, this label will be available again to be downloaded by retailers around the province from our website as a digital asset that they can start displaying in their stores immediately. But if on request, we can provide a standardized package of things like a poster, a sticker, and a brochure that could also be displayed for those that may not have access to that technology or to be able to scale it. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to questions.
How much will all this cost, this campaign?
Sure. So we're dividing the costs into the actual branding portion, but then there's the actual marketing campaign going live on websites, on newspapers, on TV. So we don't have a full budget for that yet. But I can tell you it is money well spent, because it is whatever we spend will be cheaper than having to realize the impacts of the tariffs on consumers and on the provincial treasury.
What marketing company did you use, or was it done in-house?
The marketing company was Perfect Day, I believe. Yep.
Is this sort of standard that manufacturers would have to meet, or dealers with this products, jobs here? What is
No, I mean, we encourage, what we want from this logo, what we want from this campaign is to ask consumers to pick up the box and do their own immediate research on whether this was manufactured or made or sourced from Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador, or somewhere else in the world, and make that appropriate decision. You can imagine the vast volume of products that are on stores across and shelves across the province and across the country. It'd be tough to do an inventory on every single item. So this is an awareness campaign, but I think it's also important to support the local economic growth. Sure, but I mean, if you're walking through a grocery aisle and there's pasta on one side and one is manufactured or largely made in Canada and the other is made in Turkey or the United States, then you'll maybe make a different choice given the current global circumstances. But to have that label in front of you, it's why advertising works, right? You know, your eye is drawn to it. You'll have a different thought process when you're selecting a product. That's the idea.
Have you ordered the alcohol back on the shelves?
Yes, we have. So I didn't want to make a whiplash decision last night. Lord knows the president can change his mind overnight, and maybe he's changed it as I'm standing here now. Who knows? But we didn't want to have an immediate knee-jerk reaction. But we do respect, different than the president of the United States, existing legal obligations and existing trade agreements. There is some obligation to have those products on the shelf legally. It would be in violation of certain agreements. That said, if he decides to put tariffs on, then all bets are off the table, and he's violated his own agreement, by the way, which he signed. That's why we decided to put them back on. Canada and Newfoundland and Labrador didn't start this offensive, but we will be responsive to an attack, but we'll also be diplomatic and Canadian in trying to de-escalate instead of escalate any behaviors.
The tariffs are only paused for 30 days, so our preparations with groups like MFAW, ASB, are those still going to happen?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those discussions, Ricky, have been ongoing since the December 12th or whenever the president put on his social media post. They'll be active. The minister has already convened a roundtable specific to the fishery. That came out of last week's meeting to help us seek input from both harvesters, plant workers, and processors alike, and as best we can, provide some degree of reassurance that we will be there, in particular for harvesters and plant workers in the supply chain, should there be a disruption. But it is hard to be certain when it is completely uncertain. So this table will afford for that open dialogue. That wasn't Jerry. For that open dialogue to occur should the president continue with the tariffs.
Are you going to Washington on next week?
100%.
In the face of these tariffs, there's been lots of talk of internal trade, increasing internal trade, and getting rid of some of those barriers that currently exist. Can you talk about those barriers that exist for Newfoundland and Labrador products going to other parts of the country, and what needs to happen to maybe get rid of it?
Sure. So I mean, it's the billion-dollar bill on the floor that no one wants to pick up is internal trade in Canada, but it's also as old as the country itself. So it may sound simple to try to rectify all these particular barriers, and there are many, whether it's movement of goods and services or movement of people, labor mobility across jurisdictions in terms of licensing, red seals, blue seals, other things. I think we should be focused on things that we can actually change in the short term instead of trying to eat the whole elephant per se, just one bite at a time. And we shouldn't let this moment of disruption slip through our fingers and use it and capitalize on it to solve things, in particular, specifically, in my opinion, around trucking, for example. Truckers are an incredible important part of our supply chain. They're hardworking people. And the extra barrier that exists is both a labor mobility issue for them, but is also an economic issue that's downloaded onto the products as they move across jurisdictions.
The opposition parties, the NDP and the Tories, made various recommendations during this time. I know the Tories asked to remove the sugar tax again, and they said that ministers responsible for specific portfolios, not just the fisheries, should be meeting directly with those stakeholders. Various things like that. Are you going to implement any of these other suggestions?
I'm not familiar with any of the recommendations by Mr. Wakeham. I've worked with Mr. Din and not familiar with any of his recommendations. Certainly, it seems like he's suggesting that we have side tables. Strikes me we do. Seems to me he's suggesting that we have a group. Strikes me that he does. So I guess I'm happy that he's buying into our agenda. Perhaps he'd like to vote for us in the future.
Why is it that you're meeting with the independents and the NDP but not with the PCs? What's going on there?
Well, they've reached out. So, and we've shown the ability to have mature adult conversations, one that doesn't employ Trump-style behavior with memes and silly slogans. So anytime there's someone that's willing to have an adult conversation, a mature conversation and dialogue, I'm happy to entertain.
You called internal trade a minute ago the billion-dollar bill that nobody wants to pick up. Why is that?
Because it's very difficult. It's historic. It's territorialism to a certain extent. It's not as straightforward as it appears. I think we should all be, as premiers, looking to eliminate those barriers. But it is certainly not as easy as it sounds. For example, if we allow the movement of alcohol, it sounds very easy, but I'm sure Quebec wine producers may have a problem with BC wine producers and having some protection over their own turf. Equally, for example, if we had a problem with the distribution of beer here in the province, then that could implicate and be a problem. Sorry, it could be a problem for local brewers, and Molson's and the other and Labatt's that brew here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So while we're committed to eliminating the barriers, which I think we should be, and it's every premier is focused on it, I think we need to be more surgical to bite off the ones that we can actually tackle and actually deal with, so that this crisis doesn't pass and we didn't use this moment of disruption appropriately to advance that internal trade agenda.
So if you're interested in the 10%, potential 10% tariff on energy, originally oil and now it's become energy, does that make you concerned about the potential development of policy?
No, not at all. I mean, it's an incredible asset. The people of the United States are going to need those electrons, whether they're sold at a premium or not. And the good thing about the MOU is if that price goes up, great, we get more. So I think where the president is going to feel the pain, though, is when people go to turn on their lights and realize that there's a 10% or 25% increase on their electricity costs. And not just their domestic use, not just their home use, but turning on lights and refrigerators and grocery stores will have to be downloaded to the consumer. The trickle-down effect of the energy issue is not insignificant, and is not just the price of an electron or the price of a barrel of oil. It's the ripple effect that will occur across the entire economy, which I hope is one of the reasons that he's taken a pause. Sorry, Gary, I couldn't hear you over there. I've spoken with some, not all. There's a sense of a cautious, optimistic relief, but no change in posture in terms of being ready for what's next. I think there is never been a stronger table since I've been at the First Minister's table in terms of a united front to ensure that Americans understand the implications, not just for the macro economy, but for the micro economy and how this impacts families across America, and taking that message to Washington, D.C., ensuring that we are telling our story, because Americans aren't wise to this issue necessarily. I mean, I think they're starting to be, but I mean, I was reading Fox News and CNN on Saturday as we were all enthralled with our own issue, weren't reporting it. And unless you're there making the case, unless you're there in a compelling way, helping them understand not just the friendship, not just the shared sense of values that we've all been proud of for so long, not just our history, but the direct economic impacts of these tariffs and what they'll have on individual families. That is a message that we have to bring, and I think it's one that they will understand.
Do you think Trudeau caved at all to Trump with the fentanyl czar and tighter border controls?
Not at all. Let me be perfectly clear. Canada did not bend the knee. We will not kiss the ring. As you've heard me say many times, there was an intentional conflation and confusion of the border issue and the tariff issue. We have, and it's not a coincidence, in fact, it should be celebrated, that we have a shared priority when it comes to the United States and Canada. And that shared priority is public safety and justice, and removing any sorts of legal drugs from our borders or from any community. So if a border is a natural place where you can remove an ounce or a pound of fentanyl or cocaine or any other drug, then we should be working together as partners, as historic partners as we have in the past, to remove those incredibly vicious and dangerous drugs so that it doesn't download to our citizens. The issue is going to be that there is such a small flow of fentanyl, just specifically, into the United States from Canada, that it will be tough to show the president that there's been a gigantic reduction, because there's not a gigantic start to begin with, compared to the southern border, for example. I don't think we've been, but to answer your question directly, once again, no, we did not bend the knee. We're always happy to work with our biggest ally and our closest trading partner, but in no way, shape, or form did we bend the knee or kiss the ring. In fact, I think the Prime Minister showed a courage and resolve in pushing the President to recognize that we needed more time collectively across the border to come to a better resolution than the one that he had on the table.
I'll take my turn asking this question today. People keep talking about an election. Will there be an election before the
I think we
spring?
should just get a sign that says that. There'll be an election in 2025.
That sounds like
I was wondering if Isabelle would answer two questions.
Yeah, sure.
yeah, sure.
I'm just wondering, obviously you try to get as much local stuff here as possible.
Yes.
Is there anything that are, any kind of genre are to find local meat, vegetables, beer seems to be not a problem, but is there anything hard to find locally that you'd like to see?
Not in particular. I mean, we have a lot of vendors will come to us. Like we carry we have Fagans, and like when it comes to meats, we have as many local farmers as we can get. Like we have Exploits, Fagans, Haricots. Same thing with honey vendors. I mean, they will come to us. So, unless somebody is looking for something specifically, then we will reach out and see if we can find that. But we have like 300 plus local vendors here currently. So,
Customer across the aisle.
yes.
Find that there is a great appetite to get local alternatives. I mean, obviously here you're catering to them, but I wonder if in general when you're trying to put the plan together to make the store, did you find that there was a great appetite for local produce, a place where you could go and find local products?
Absolutely. Yeah, they had, like for fresh vegetables, people were having a hard time trying to. So we brought in some of the local farmers, and then we started with one, and then they started to come to us. So the local vendors or local farmers then started to reach out. But nothing in particular that,
I do wonder if local vegetables and fruits are an issue.
they can be.
This time of year, certainly.
Yes, yeah. Now we still currently have Tilly Acres, and we have all their vegetables in stock. So, yeah, they try their best. Yeah.
Now, can you just tell me how long you've been operating? Have you put this store together?
This was actually the brainchild of Ivy and Greg Hanley. When COVID came down, she, thought it would be a great idea to bring some local vendors together to be able to, because a lot of them were closing businesses. So she started off with like 30 vendors, and then it just organically started to grow from there. So she gave small businesses an opportunity to come under one roof and sell all their products. And then it just started to grow and grow and grow, and we're hoping to continue to grow more, but we need an expansion.
I know there's a sure, yeah. I know there's a question to ask. I couldn't hear Juanita's question because the machine's back here.
Yes.
But the sugar tax. There's one question I have is that some of the products, sorry, maybe a better question. Some of those products are, well, maybe not Newfoundland products. They're packaged, potentially produced here in the province. There'll be an exemption, sugar tax for any of those products that do production at least employs Newfoundlanders and Labrador.
Excuse me. Well, thank you for that. As you know, we implemented the sugar tax to really address a health issue. And as you know, globally and across Canada, it's widely accepted from the health industry, the healthcare providers, that this is the best means and mechanisms to address this very serious challenge that we have with sugar in our diets. Most of our sugar that we take into our diets comes from these sugar-sweetened beverages. So we have been very focused on making sure that we improve the health of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. We want to be one of the healthiest provinces, and we're not yet, one of the healthiest provinces in the country. So a long answer to a short question, no, at this point is not contemplated. There are alternatives, and we know that the producers do provide alternatives. If you don't want to have the sugar-sweetened beverage, you can certainly have an alternative.
Well, we're very proud of our local distributors, the Browning Harveys of the world. I mean, they employ a lot of people here, good, well-paying jobs. And so we're very proud to have them as a locally owned establishment. And I've noticed that they've even put out their own marketing campaign a bit, celebrating the fact that they're from Newfoundland and Labrador. But as the minister suggested, they have a vast portfolio of products.
Can you just tell us again the website? You've been to a couple times.
I don't have
It's gov.nl.ca/buy-nl. It's in the news release.
buy an L.
It's just hard to say. I feel
Government website by NL.
Yeah.
Isabel, I have one more question. A lot of the local businesses, like downtown, they rely on cruise ships, they rely on
Yes.
really challenging over the winter months because Newfoundlanders aren't necessarily interested in buying the products that are sold there. And I'm wondering, in your experience, do you think Newfoundlanders are thoughtful enough about where they buy the food that they eat, and do you think they're thoughtful enough about supporting local stuff? Because the experience, other than your store, is that there's not a whole lot that's going on.
I can't really speak for anyone else. All I know is what happens here at this store. And we have people who they purposely come here for, for their local products. And if there's something that they're looking for that we currently don't have in stock, we will source out who that vendor is and try to get them in. So we have a good following here. So we haven't really had that issue with.
The Premier might
Sorry.
be able to speak to, 'cause we are seeing folks wanting
Yeah.
to shop locally. And
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, we've obviously this is a live situation where people are changing their pattern of behavior before our eyes. There's no question that as I walk down the grocery store, you see people picking up items and looking at it. I mean, you see it all over Facebook. There's Facebook groups with lists of Canadian products and alternatives, and I encourage people to look at that. But I think that change in consumer behavior will take a while to fully understand. And look, we should be doing this anyway. We should be buying local. We should be looking at our Canadian products. But hopefully, we can reestablish a friendly diplomatic channel with the United States and continue the most beautiful economy, this historic economy and integrated economy that the world has ever seen.
Good questions. Okay, I would like to get like a nice photo of the chest.